All right, boys and girls. I got a Cooler Master, a Stryker case here, and I wish I could give y'all like the specs and whatnot, but I just know that I have a Cooler Master Stryker case. I don't know what the form factor is. I'm pretty sure it's a full-blown ATX desktop tower. But anyhow, I'm using the Z87 ASUS motherboard form, and it's LGA 1150 or whatever form, and that's the socket. And there's some questions about the wiring and whatnot. As you can kind of see here, what's going on. This thing was put together. I mean, it's actually down because like I've gotten two bad motherboards from ASUS, the Z87 Sabertooth. I've gotten two bad ones like back to back. The one that I originally purchased and then like the one that was supposed to be a warranty replacement. So I built this thing twice. You know, when I replaced the uh, the original bad motherboard. But here you see everything was wiring. I mean, everything works just fine. It's just there's like both of the motherboards had bad PCI sockets, and the one that they sent to replace the original bad one had a bad PCI Express slot too. So I lost the video card in that process. No big deal because dual video cards and one of the PCI Express slots still work. So here you can see this thing fully wired. Um, there's questions about how everything gets wired since the Cooler Master documentation is kind of wonky, but there's two connectors that will be unused when everything's said and done. And here's one of them. It's piggybacking, like you can't, hang on, let me put this in the light. Bam, there we go. So hopefully you can kind of see that it's hang on, let me see if I can focus here. There we go, right there. You see how we got a brown and black combination. It looks like just two brown wires. So we got two pairs, two brown and black wire pairs. It's a 2-pin black connector. It's piggybacking off the power supply that goes to the top fan right here in the Cooler Master Stryker case. And then we have this one right here. This is all bundled. I'm gonna try to trace it out for you guys, but that's a 2-pin black connector. It's obviously two black wires going to it, and that won't be used. Like I said, this thing was fully functional with the exception of the bad PCI Express with the bad PCI sockets on the original motherboard. So I had this thing wired up, everything was running pretty groovy. So that's how that goes. I'm gonna give you guys a real quick glimpse of everything that was put together, where everything's gonna kind of go, because I know a lot of people had questions about that. I had some issues. Here's the original bad motherboard. I pretty much just left it ready. Like nothing's bolted down, nothing's secured, including that all-in-one cooling solution heatsink right there. That's not even really, it's just tight enough to keep everything kind of in place, so when I get the new motherboard, it'll be a pretty easy in and out swap. So this is what we're kind of looking at. The main connectors that you're going to be dealing with, this is obviously power. That's the main ATX board power right here, and that's the socket for that. So you're going to want to get a hold of that. Here we go. Let's see if I could zoom in right there. All right, so you're looking at an auxiliary power connector for the motherboard. That's coming from the main power supply. That's going to be an 8-pin socket, and then right next to it, if you're using an ASUS Z87 motherboard too, I'm assuming that well, actually it's probably just exclusive to the Z87 Sabertooth because it has this, what they call this ultimate force armor right here. And what it does is, that's that little plug next to it, that little white plug right here. That's just a little auxiliary fan that it cools the components running through these channels right here. And there's another one right here. As you can see, the power is right there. So that's I mean, if you're using a Z87 Sabertooth motherboard too, then you'll be doing the same thing. That's where the connectors go for that. But as far as other Z87 Sabertooth motherboards go, these are the connections that we need to worry about One, we got the HD audio. I don't know why you would use the AC97 unless you're for whatever reason are still using some sound card that is using legacy AC97 standard hardware. But for all intents and purposes, if I were you, if you have any doubts about it, just run the HD audio, because that's going to be getting tapped into up here for the mini phone jack ports, and then as well for these mini phone jack ports. They're also known as mini RCA, but they're actually just mini phone ports, is I think the technical standard. And that'll be for like your I think I'm assuming 5.1 surround sound, possibly 7.1. I'm not sure how that's all rigged up, because I don't use desktops for premium sound. Anyhow, I'm using a push-pull form factor, or push-pull configuration right here. So if you're doing the same type of thing, that's how I'd recommend doing that. That's pretty cool, because this little radiator right here, or some people call it oh my goodness. Anyway, yeah, it's effectively a radiator. It's self-contained liquid, and the fans will operate in a push-pull configuration. Obviously, this one's pushing, and then this one's pushing, and then this one that came with the case is going to be pulling the air through the fins on that radiator. Two more connectors that we need to be worried about right here are the USB, and that's the actual connection to the motherboard that you will be. That's how you get USB functionality to the back ports on the motherboard, as you saw back here, right there, as well as up front, right there. So make sure that's connected. These two wires right here, they're 2-pin connectors, and those are going to get ready. This is one end of one of those wires right here, and all it is a thermistor cable, and all it does is to sensor. It's a sensor for temperature that you can use to monitor with some of the software that comes with Cooler Master. So that's pretty cool. Let me see some of the more important ports. Oh yeah, right here. This is another cable that comes with the Cooler Master, and I'm pretty sure that's for a lot of the auxiliary functions that occur with I think controlling like fan speed, things of that nature, from the front control panel right there. Like obviously probably power reset, things of that nature is going to be probably occurring through there. As far as connectors go, I'm pretty sure that pretty much sums it up. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. All the fans. Let me bring you back over here. This back rear fan that's working in conjunction with that NZXT Kraken X40, you're gonna have a connector to it, but you need to obviously supply the power cables for that, and that's gonna be coming from the main power supply. And then you're gonna see the fan power connectors with this main bundle of wires that come with the case. This is where those connectors happen. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, hopefully I'm not really looking at what you guys are seeing. I'm just kind of narrating. But hopefully you guys can see what's going on here. There was a little mishap with me where I had to resolder one of the connectors because it came off pretty cheap, but whatever. It was pretty much my fault, but no big deal. But it works like a champ. It works just fine. These are, I believe, 3-pin, and then these are 2-pin, and each fan on the other side comes with a pair. So operation is controlled in a pair. One's probably a control signal to turn the fans on and off, or to control the speed, and then the other one's for power, and that's for these two fans. Excuse me. So hopefully that kind of answers everybody's questions. If you guys have any questions about anything, then let me know. I've been an IT guy for a real long time. I'm A+ certified, which really doesn't mean too much. Because you can't know anything and everything under the sun, and trust me, like hardware is definitely my weakest area, but like I'm obviously still functional with that. So I'm just better at some of the other IT stuff than hardware. I'm a good troubleshooter. So anyhow, yeah, if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll do my best to help you guys. Like I'm not too familiar. I'm not extensively familiar. Like I said, I'm not a hardware guy, so I'm not really familiar with all the other hardware combinations out there. But when it comes to basic, just standard stuff, like I can definitely help you, and obviously when it comes to the Z87 stuff, like I've done effectively 2 builds with it so far, and when I get the other replacement motherboard, it's gonna be a 3rd build. Oh, and if you have any questions about thermal paste, I got this from an ASUS video, and when I actually had to uninstall the heatsink, it was pretty valid. These are capacitors right here, and what you're seeing is the surface head of a capacitor. The way you want to apply thermal paste, you're gonna want a bead of thermal paste that's just slightly larger than that diameter right there. So let it bead up right in the center, and then when you attach the heatsink, go ahead and kind of make sure that there's firm contact, a good marriage between the heatsink and the surface of the chip itself, and that'll ensure no metal to metal contact. That's what we want here. Another user had some questions about some of the what they call offset screws, and you can't see it from there, but basically that's these things on the back side of the motherboard. Actually, let me see if I could kind of zoom in right there. You can kind of see what's going on right there. That's the other side of it, and what that does is it offsets the actual motherboard and all the little soldering points like this from actually making contact with the rest of the case, possibly causing a short circuit. So any type of, you know, electrostatic discharge, that type of stuff, it's all the same. Like you could cause damage to electrical components when there's shorts introduced by faulty wiring or anything that's not properly grounded, and obviously by introducing possible short connections. So that's what those offset screws do, is they prevent those shorting connections. And that's pretty standard fare, so make sure you guys are using those if they're available. And that's about it. All right, have a good one.